Check, check, check one, check two.
So welcome to the We Are One podcast. I have Ola Wolny back, the amazing, the wonderful, I won't call her the thing I called her last time. We'll leave that alone. She's in charge, but we won't call her the queen of it. So welcome back, Ola. We had a discussion for about probably about an hour already, which I'll paste back into this. Had nothing to do with what we were supposed to talk about, but it was certainly fascinating. So that'll be a separate video. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure, and I'm loving it here. So yeah, we've had a chat that probably we could do another show out of, right? Yeah, very very keen to dive into what we were actually supposed to talk about today.
We're supposed to talk about whatever we talk about. That's what's supposed to happen. We just have to phrase it like that. That's what happens in life. You go through some things and you have to welcome them. Otherwise, you'll be a victim to whoever's dealing that. That's a whole nother discussion. All right, so we're going to talk about a few things today. But before we do that, let's hear from our sponsor. No, I'm just kidding. So these are the main topics: our history, the Christ consciousness, the missing link, matrix constraints, and your future plans. You have an event coming up. So if you'd like to speak about that for a few moments, so people can, who have not tuned out yet to me speaking, they want to hear what you have to say. So.
Sure. So I have an event coming up next week here in Northern Norway in Lofoten area, which is, if anybody has seen any of my other content, I speak a little bit about Lofoten being ancient Hyperborea, according to the local legends, local mythology. Very, very special region, attracting loads of tourists every year, but I think they mostly come for the visual feast, while I think there is absolutely amazing amounts of additional, that energetic, deeper spiritual experience that you can find yourself having when here. So my event, this one has been only for women. Feminine alchemy, Arctic getaway. So I am planning to take all of us 13, the magic number 13, amazing, wonderful women here in this beautiful land, exploring some of the ancient sites, going through some of the legends, some of the teachings, hopefully enjoying the weather, because we had something that looks like return of the winter here recently. So I'm hoping that kind of clears up too. But yes, I would love to start organizing these kind of events more often. We are a little bit limited in terms of good opportunity, good window of opportunity weather-wise here in the Arctic. So now I'm kind of using the summertime, but of course, come winter, we have the northern lights and everything gets that magical flavor. Right now it's the midnight sun. But I've had quite a few people inquiring about more events. So yes, I am planning to do those. I am also planning to do events for men, or perhaps mixed groups, where we can probably also get a little bit into some of the Lofoten local typical activities. So of course, a lot of fishing, that big catch fishing, if you like. And a few other things. We have some contacts here with the local Sami people, which are the sort of ethnic indigenous group here in this region. So I would love to also give the opportunity to meet some of those people, their legends, their culture, their stories, which beautifully tie into everything that I also talk about in my messages.
Awesome. So you are going to try to do more future events. Where can they contact you? Where can they see this schedule of possible events?
So everything, whatever I would be organizing, can be found on my website, or will be available through my website. That's selfmasteryquest.com. If anybody wants to contact me via Facebook, that's also possible. I try to keep those two most updated. So if anything is out there on the horizon, definitely please do reach out if you're interested. I have been also asked asked about private tours, as in private guided tours for small groups. That's also possible. And of course, we can weave in variety of attractions there. It is an amazing region, really magical, truly magical. I did not even know about that until I moved here 6 years ago. And I honestly feel like this is a second home, and the energy is unmatched. I've been to many places around the world, and I have not felt or seen anything like this. So truly recommending.
Sorry about that, guys. I misspelled it twice. My eyes are pretty bad. I'm old. Okay, so sorry about that. So selfmasteryquest.com. I'll put it in the description as well if you guys want to try to get along with that. And I have a question. So you have 12 disciples. Are you the 13th, or are you taking 13 disciples?
Good one, right? Yeah, it's altogether 13, the magic 13, including me. So I do not, we're all equal here. I do not teach anybody anything. I can only remind at best something that you feel already deep inside. And the women that are coming are absolutely amazing, beautiful, magnificent women. I am so looking forward to it. The energy is already buzzing. We're obviously in touch as a group right now. So all I can do is be a guide and maybe a little here and there remind about something that sleeps deep inside of every single one of us.
Awesome. So I just have one request, that you don't name your last meal on your dinner, the Last Supper. Don't do that. That's probably not a good idea.
Oh well, I think that's a good show to decipher what that really was, right?
You could take one really good picture of a big meal, like like the Da Vinci painting. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Well, what I can tell you right now, and the ladies, I think the ladies pretty much know about it, but there's going to be definitely a journey of resurrection, and I mean alchemically. So the real meaning of resurrection. I actually covered that in a webinar that if anybody's interested, that's also available on my website. Resurrection is to do specifically with exiting the matrix. So how to exit the matrix by life. As Mary Magdalene says in her teachings, that if you do not resurrect in life after death, forget it, impossible. You will not be able to find the kingdom of heaven, because you will be caught into the net. We all are caught into the net. That's why this is Age of Pisces, or we have been in the Age of Pisces. So the resurrection is about the soul. It is resurrecting of the soul. It has never been about resurrection of from physical death. It is the spiritual death.
Hold that thought. I want to talk about Inanna and the Underworld that's coming up, as far as how that relates. But so the reason I wanted to talk to you today, a lot of it is about where we are from, our history. What have you found out about that? What are your interpretations? And so this is a quote: "When you know where you come from, you know where you're going." I wanted to twist that around a little bit, and I would say, when you know where you come from, you know where you can go. And so basically what that means to me is we're on this amazing journey. Well, we can process it any way we like, but I process it that I'm on this amazing journey, and I want to know what I can do with this. What are my constraints? What are my secret powers, so to speak? And if I know where I have come from, then I know where I can go and what I can do. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, if I know where I come from, what is this artificial construct?
Well, that's a very big question. If we know where we came from, so you see, a lot of people use the Matrix movie. A lot of people get fascinated with that in terms of the Matrix, in terms of this reality. But I always like to link back to the Avatar. So if anybody watched the Avatar, the first, especially the first one, I haven't even watched the second one. The first one, I think this is a beautiful story, and of course it's flipped, as everything always is. So the story of an invasion of humans in the movie onto a beautiful planet where the avatars, that blue race, highly spiritual race, connected with the planet, Awa, right? Always there must be this whole the tree of Eden, right? Whether that's the Awa, whether that's the Norse mythology Yggdrasil, there's always the tree, the motive of the tree present, which is very important in itself. What does it actually mean? So that story, that concept is specifically representing our own history, or history of the humankind. So humankind were a very advanced race spiritually, living in symbiosis with the earth, connected to the galactic womb, connected to the earth womb energetically. So this is where the concept of the tree of life comes in, because energetically, even physically, a woman and the world has that kind of structure. So this is where the underworld comes in, the middle world, right, and the upper kingdom. So this invasion is resulting, of course, we have all watched the movie, but to us it is resulting in an enslavement. So the race comes in, which is very advanced technologically, and they use that technology to capture, enslave, and ultimately use our energy, sort of siphon that out of us, and they need a construct for that. So they are using technology, they are using artificial intelligence, they literally build this construct. This is where the firmament comes in, and of course the ancient texts such as Pistis Sophia, which you want to talk about as well, beautifully describes exactly, literally, the architecture of what they've done. So there are different layers, there are different levels above the firmament, how this whole venture was delivered. And we find ourselves blissfully unaware, probably not so blissfully. We have been also cut off from the lower world over time, and that you can find the echo of that in the stories, very much the stories of the Celtic folklore. So the underworld or the other world. So what is that place, right? And the Inanna descent to the underworld. Why? What is going on in that space? So this is the result of the invasion and the artificial construct put upon us to cut us off, to kind of isolate us in a way. So, the way I describe our world is like energetically we have been closed off in a capsule. So we have the firmament above, and we also have the lead below us, the lead as in the element. And of course, we're not talking physically the lead, but these are the low vibrations that they have been pumping into this reality in the shape of fear, misery, wars, illnesses, etc. So all the things that are shaping our experience to be mostly negative, if you think about it, right? So this is the artificial construct, and astrology, it is just a language. It is just the way, it's like the way to break into that code, because we're talking artificial construct, artificial intelligence. We're talking literally some kind of technological, even if we look at the computers, right? It is some kind of technological solution with the coding, with programming. This is why numerology works. This is why astrology works. This is why we have the element of determinism in this world very, very strong. The less aware and conscious you are, the more it works. So all the people that say, no, I'm not interested in astrology, it doesn't concern me, I have my free will. I'm sorry, but free will is something that you perceive as free will, which is actually predetermined at certain influences at birth, which are representation of whatever this construct has chosen for you. So we are constantly mind controlled, and the world as we see it is a result of that mind control within that artificial construct.
So it's an artificial construct, but it is based in physical nature. Is that what you believe? That's what you think?
That's right. That's so you see, what I represent is a sort of line of teachings. This is not exactly the result of my sort of research. Of course, my research is part of connecting some of the dots, but I represent a line of teachings of the feminine alchemy. So this means line of the teachings that come from the grandmothers, where I come from, for example, the grandmother's wisdom, the indigenous people, the ethnic people of different geographies, wisdom coded into fairy tales, into mythology, into ancient texts as well, because this is the part that I've managed to research and see the echo or the trail present everywhere, regardless of where you look geographically, and whether that's a myth, that's a sort of local legend, or an ancient text. Everything has that layer written into it. So it's almost like you need to know what you're looking for to be able to find it. But when you do, that is the answers are just in plain sight.
So we're in a physical realm that is layered in artificial technology. That is the firmament, or you think that is a physical barrier, like we're in timeout, or both?
I think the timeout, or the fact that some people perceive it as we are in quarantine, I think this is more like a result of the fact that this dome, this firmament, and the technology around it made us disconnected from the sort of outer cosmic environment, and disconnected from the earth, from the inner parts of the earth. So we have been in a way experiencing this isolation, this quarantine, but effectively I would say the reality is physical, but our experience is very much projected, meaning what we experience is very limited. It is almost like, we are able to experience unlimited amount of scenarios, but because of the fact that this construct is above us, streaming non-stop, and streaming from what? From the planets, from the moon, so this is where the astrology comes in. It is streaming onto us, specifically onto the third eye. It is streaming certain frequencies, and our experience, our perception of the experience of what is going to be sort of shown to us is literally as if we are tuning into only one channel out of unlimited amount almost available. So I don't see this reality as fake, as in we do not exist, everything is just a computer program or something like that. It is not in that sense. It is more in a sense that things are kind of physical and real, but we are locked into a very limited spectrum, visible light spectrum. This is why they called Illuminati, because they know about it. Illuminati, not from illumination, but from the fact that this is about the visible light spectrum. So we are locked in a very narrow bandwidth where our experience is dictated from above. It is not really ours, it is dictated. What's outside of it? Void. Not as in nothing, but as in beyond our perception. If you look at the animals, they have wider, cats, for example, wider perception. Very often they can see kind of much more. We look and we don't see anything. But even when you look at the spectrum of the frequencies, right? Visible light is very, very narrow. We also have the sound, we have the color, and a lot of other phenomena that we don't even know about because we don't perceive. So what we do see, and that includes the way our lives unfold, the way, our emotions, what kind of emotions are fed by them, by this construct, that becomes our reality. So it's almost as if we are constantly wearing, those goggles. I don't know much about it, but I think, these days you can get like goggles and you can kind of so not just play a video game on a computer, but you can kind of get the goggles and it's like you are in that reality, right? In that kind of artificial reality. it is kind of like that for us, because we are perceiving only through a very, very narrow bandwidth, and that is creating our experience. But if we can step outside of it, the game changes, right? So when people talk about exiting the matrix and looking for a physical place to do that, it doesn't work like that, because we're not captured just physically. It is exactly. It's a mental prism, a little bit of our own doing, because we kind of sign up to it. So it is almost like a self-perpetuating issue that's been going on here.
So do you believe that the planets are part of the void, or do you believe that is some kind of a projection? Not that they don't exist, maybe, but it's like a holographic signature of a simulated overlay, I guess would be the...
Well, the planets, they exist, but they have been captured. So that's part of that reality that's been captured, that's working for the matrix, working for the construct. The only planet that is still captured into this net, but is not working for that construct, is Venus, Pistis Sophia. Pistis Sophia does not exactly mean Venus, but it is the emanation of a feminine energy. So it is on many levels describing what is happening here, and why the feminine, the feminine energy, the women who are the primary holders of that energy, are so critical, and why they have been so suppressed and sort of pushed to the side, abused over millennia. But ultimately, on many levels, those ancient texts are coding those kind of mysteries.
Awesome. Okay, so I wanted to get into this kind of leads me into the next question about Inanna and the Underworld. So I've seen some videos that tell the story. Before we get into the story, and I'll let you explain what it is to you, and what you've heard, or what's been passed down through legends across the world. Is the Underworld a physical place that we are not able to journey to? Because what I've seen from the videos that I've heard, it was Inanna went to the Underworld as a physical being. It wasn't a goddess. It wasn't a spiritual being. It was a physical being that went, and she was the queen of the heavens, correct? Or she was of the heavens, and went to the Underworld, a physical place, and passed through gates that were physical. And she was asking to not be put to death, earthly death, or physical death. So that makes me think that it was an actual place. And so from that's where I'm coming from when I ask the question, is it a physical place, and can we get there?
So I think that what we have to remember as a key rule of thumb, okay, an easy rule of thumb which served us the last 3 years, is that whatever the official version is, flip it. Yeah, if the government tells you they worry about you and they got the vaccine to save you, flip it. Same, unfortunately, has been done with mythology, with legends, with all those stories, all kinds of stories, including the ancient texts. So I've seen probably 2 or 3 versions of the Inanna descent to the Underworld out there. Some of them, like, you have to dig a little bit deeper to find the ones that are not so butchered by patriarchy. But you see, is Underworld physical? No. It's not physical. It is that energetic kind of space to do with the womb, with that lower kingdom. It is not physical. In the myth, it is going to be physical. There are certain things that, for example, are portrayed in fairy tales or in legends, and their things are in a way sort of explained literally, right? So that people could understand. But it is alchemy that's being explained. So it is not a physical place. She's not going through any physical gates. She is not taking physical clothes, and she is not. She's the queen of heaven. And of course, in some of the versions, she's meeting in the Underworld Ereshkigal, so her sister. No, she's not meeting anybody in the Underworld as in her sister. Ereshkigal is, you see, these are the three aspects of the feminine energy that I mentioned before, which is the woman as the maiden, creatrix, and witch. So the witch, that aspect, energy, the queen of the underworld, that is the Ereshkigal. So she's not meeting any separate outside of herself another person. She is connecting three aspects of her feminine energy. So and the fact that in most of those versions Enki comes to rescue her from the underworld, another patriarchal overlay and absolute nonsense, because male without a feminine counterpart do not have access to the underworld. Underworld is feminine domain, and if you look at the mythology, for example, the Hades, right, and the underworld, it's masculine. That's already the inversion. So we need to, like I say, we almost need to know the truth to be able to decipher those texts. The journey to the underworld is one of the sort of, it's a major part of the journey of resurrection. Okay, so underworld as a place, as this energetic place, let's call it like that, as this kind of the lower kingdom. Remember the tree of life. So the underworld is the roots of the tree of life, and the trunk, the middle world, as we are here, and the upper world, the cosmic, so the upper kingdom. In the underworld is untouched by the archons. They would love to be able to put their hand on it, but they haven't. Underworld is that last frontier that's been untouched by them. So when a woman descends to the underworld, this is that journey, and she takes off the clothes. It's not physical. She's not taking the clothes off. She's taking off the layers of programming. She's taking off the net. This is what I mentioned, right, earlier, that we are all caught in a net in age of Pisces, right? Pisces in the net. So we are all caught in a net on a soul level. So our souls are captured. This is why the Pope, for example, is called the fisherman. And this is why he wears this headpiece that looks like a head of the fish, because he's a fisher. He's a fisher of men. And obviously in the Vatican, that church has they've entered into certain agreements with the archons to capture as many souls as possible. That's why religions is all sorts of religions are one of the worst ways to capture people and to hold them hostage, to hold them enslaved. But the descent to the underworld is about taking off those layers, taking off the net. So this is ultimately the journey of resurrection. And you see, when you think about Jesus dying on a cross, right, which think about it, this reality very often is portrayed in a sense of cubes, right, as in this holographic, it's like squares or cubes. But if you take the cube and if you open it from 3D into 2D, what you're gonna get is a picture of a cross. So a person dying on a cross, it is like this symbolic, it's Matrix laughing in our faces, that we are all captured into this net, into this holographic net, as in we are all mind control, and we are living through the experience that they are broadcasting through us. And people dying on the cross is literally like, them telling us that there is no way out of here. So when Jesus dies on the cross, which not exactly dies, but when afterwards he's taken to the grave, to the cave, to the tomb, right? And that is very symbolic. That is, again, this is alchemy written into the ancient texts, because when he's taken, his body is taken to the grave, to the cave, that is symbolic of the underworld. That is symbolic of him going through that experience, but having been anointed by a woman first. So Mary Magdalene anointed him. This is why Mary Magdalene is present at resurrection, because a woman, it's always required a woman presence to be able to take a man through the underworld. That's not the precedence, right? That story is not first one. We have the same story with resurrection of Osiris. We have the same story with Dumuzi and Inanna, also in the Greek mythology, Dionysus, and there is always a woman present guiding and providing rites of passage. So you see, there is a lot of alchemical meaning here, a lot of alchemical sense, that if we skip that, or if we are not aware of that, the story doesn't make any sense. It just becomes some kind of weird tale that's absent meaning.
Okay, gotcha. I understand. I think I understand anyway. Okay, so next question I wanted to get into was the documentation of history. And we talked a little bit about this. I really didn't want to press it because I didn't want you to say something phenomenal and then have to repeat it. Here's how I see the main ruse of what we're going through in religion and everything else, as far as what is not correct. If I were to give you an example of anything in this current time that's written or documented, the first thing that we're going to do is put a date on it, right? That's what we're going to do with everything. We date everything. We date stories. We date calendar days. We date everything. And the second, I mean, even as 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds, when we're learning to write, the first thing we do is we put our name on it and we date it. That's what we do. My question for history is, what is the first documented date that we can find that's not corrupted and it can be corroborated either by astrology or by the series of events across historical circumstances of events or the globe, like, things that happened? Because obviously you're not going to date something 1000 BC, 2000 BC, 5000 BC, because Christ hadn't existed yet, so you can't document that. So if this is a construct, and if this civilization of Earth and this history has been documented, the first thing that I would think would be to find out what the calendar of events would be. And there are multiple calendars, I understand that, but again, documenting through astrology, documenting through historic events, how do we know what the first dated? And I'm assuming that whenever anything happened in prehistoric times or prehistoric times, dated times of our Gregorian calendar, they would have dated it. If somehow we woke up here, I mean, which came first, the chicken or the egg, the baby or the man, or if we came to Earth, the first thing we would have done if we were aliens and we came to Earth as humans, or we were created, or whatever story you have of this Earth, we would have documented it either by the sun, the moon, by something, the day we got here. What is the first historic text, in your opinion, that is accurate either by astrology or anything else?
Well, you can obviously argue about the dating of Vedas from anything 2000, 3000 BC to even 10,000, 12,000 BC. I think that we have to kind of flip the question a little bit, because you see, what is the purpose of dating in this linear time, or this whole perception that events have beginning and then something's going to happen in the future? That concept comes in pretty much with patriarchy. Before we obviously didn't have necessarily written accounts, but the dating was not, like you say, as in this year or that year, because there was no reference, but the dating was done using astronomy. So astronomical events, using precession of equinoxes. We have dating done using architecture, meaning certain constructs, certain temples were built in a certain position in relation to constellations, in relations to certain stars, very much done based on vernal equinox and which constellation or which star was at the time linked to, for example, the vernal equinox or the solstice, the summer solstice, or simply tracking movements of the stars at certain specific dates, such as the solstice, where certain star would find itself. So based on that, we can track some events back. I think that we have to remember that a lot of the original accounts were not written. They were verbal, so there is a lot of oral tradition. This is why we have legends. This is why we have myths. This is why we have fairy tales, and they predate the written word and the kind of need to date it in that written form. So mostly the references to astronomy, astrology, are the ones that give us some kind of time frame, some kind of point in the history. We obviously have the tablets that are stone tablets. So, for example, the Sumerian tablets. Not always the writing, the scripture looked the way it does now, or the way we would like it to look like, but it is mostly relying on the references to the sky. So we have references going back to 10,000 BC, 12,000 BC, but we have even older. We have figures from the Neolithic, Paleolithic times, artifacts. That obviously taking us back to 20, 40, 60,000 years ago of a culture that was advanced. We're not talking beginning of civilization anytime the way it's been presented to us.
Okay, I have a few thoughts on that. So if the sky, or if astronomy is a hologram or it's a projection, how I mean, we could easily prove, we could back the projection up and date it that way, right? And so if it was a projected hologram, then that's not necessarily proof of the days of time.
I don't see it as projected. I don't see it. I never said that it's projected. I said that our experience, as in not projected. It's more like, why can't we have whatever we want? Why can't I have 5 palaces and live a life where I don't have to worry about anything? Why do I have to worry from month to month? How am I going to pay my bills? That is not my choice. That is not my preferred experience in this earth. And that was not the case in Golden Age. So this is the case in this era where things have been constrained and we are living under the dome, and there is a certain experience that's being served to us that we sign up to as reality, and we believe that this is the way to go. So the cosmic phenomena in terms of the precession, the stars, the skies, the constellations, this is why I'm saying I don't believe this is all hologram, or that all of this is just fake, it's just a projection. I don't subscribe to that. I believe that it is almost like we have goggles on which are giving us certain experience on earth, but not necessarily that the reference points are all fake. So the fact that, for example, we're entering the age of Aquarius, and we have certain artifacts or certain temples built where the Leo, the lion, was the kind of prevalent motive. Well, that kind of takes us back to the age of Leo, right? So that gives us the dating ability here. So I don't really see that the whole thing is fake. I believe more that it is our lives, the fact that things are pretty much hard for all of us, the traumas, the programming, that is fake. That is the part that makes it holographic in a way, because it is streamed onto us, but not in the sense that everything is fake and we are just dreaming like in the Matrix movie.
So what you're saying is, if I'm not trying to misquote you, is that you believe that the situation is it is not a visible or visual misconstruction. It is more of a mental misconstruction.
Yeah.
Is that accurate? Okay.
We are locked in a certain bandwidth of experience. We are locked in a certain bandwidth of what we can perceive and what we can't. And the planet specifically, so part of the natural phenomena, has been captured. This is why I keep talking about this very advanced technology that we do not understand. And I think that the problem is we attempt to explain or to sort of get answers based on technology that we really, really don't understand. Because if they have technology that can capture planets and use their frequencies, use their movement, which is described very, very clearly in Pistis Sophia, for example, or in the Hermetic text, that's not the only source. If they have the ability to do that, so I think that we're dealing with a technology that we are probably thousands of years behind to understand how they really did it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they have technology for memories as well. And again, I'm not going to speak on the Mandela effect in this particular interview, but I think that certainly there's something to the fact that these memories have been implanted in certain people, or they've been living in a separate parallel realm mentally than other people have lived in. I mean, if you have experiences and you have memories of those experiences, other people have the same exact time frame with different memories and experiences that completely contradict. Then to me, that something's going on.
So for example, if you look into Huna, the original teachings, not only there, the teachings say that the subconscious, right, which is where all those things are pretty much stored, the subconscious, it's an implant. So literally we receive, and it must be like an implant. This is why you can go to all sorts of psychology sessions or psychotherapy, etc. You could be changing your programming, changing one program into another that perhaps is a little bit better, but ultimately you are just playing in that mind field. You're playing with something that's already implanted. The point is not to swap one for something better, but the point is to go to the underworld, right? Inanna descends to the underworld, take off the layers of programming. And this is layers. And this is not to replace one program with another. This is not to change. They don't have to be healed. The programs don't have to be healed. We just have to
take it
sort
off.
of unsubscribe. Yeah, take off the goggles, unsubscribe from it. So yeah, in that context, what you say, the Mandela effect, yes, because if we get different, if your implant says different things to mine, while we perceive reality and the time in a linear fashion, as in this happened and that happened, your story gonna be different from mine.
Yeah. I mean, I believe in. I believe is a difficult word right now to talk about as far as how that works. But it for me, it all tracked back to the double slit experiment and watching people show these bands of light and knowing how much we actually perceive, and knowing or understanding what exactly is possible through mind control, like the MK Ultra projects and those kind of things, and television programming and just indoctrination in general. And then I look at myself and I go, even though I wasn't fully aware of what was going on, I wasn't on the same bandwidth as some people who are able to, in my opinion, be projected a certain way. And no matter what they think, they're able to have that changed immediately. And I don't think that, for me personally, I'm in the same situation as everyone else. And I'm not saying I'm the only one. I'm saying that there are certain levels of bandwidth frequencies that people are tapped into, that they're easily manipulated and changed. And you can change structures and you can change visual memories. And they go, oh yeah, maybe I'm just misremembering that. Because when I ask certain people in my experience of, what something was, and I say, that's not what it is. That's not what it ever was. It was never that way. And millions of people say that it's the same way. But other people are like, oh, maybe I was just misremembering. Well, why would you ever think that you were misremembering that? Like there's a flaw there, or there's a locking in of a light spectrum or a frequency that they're not able to get out of, that I'm not in. So, you know, those kind of things that are scientifically, scientific is a tough word too, but scientifically proven to dispel, it makes me really wonder what is going on in some people's conscious, because they can't be the same wavelength that I'm operating on. It can't be. You're not going to tell me that something never happened when I know that it happened. And I could tell you in the present of the past that it happened, if that makes sense. And it's documented.
Absolutely. But you see, everything that you describe happens in the mind. And mind is, like you say, it is where the mind control happens, right? This is why I say that the receiver, the antenna for streaming of all these programs is in our, this is the pineal gland, right? So this is why a lot of those ancient artwork, they have the picture of a pineal gland, right? They know exactly what they are using it. So they have changed its functions so that this pineal gland is only picking up one channel, the channel that they are liking to stream to us. And then, of course, what you're saying is absolutely correct. That is the function of the mind. These are also the errors that happen in the mind. But this is why when you look into those ancient teachings and especially the legends, the etc., they talk about, you know, that do not trust anything from here up, because it is controlled. So even the back in the day, they found a lot of figures of a woman. They were called Venus, obviously always that link from the Paleolithic time, Neolithic time. Those figures, very voluptuous body, but no head, or head that was disproportionate to the rest of the body. And the wisdom that was coded into that was to remind us not to rely on anything that's logical. In obviously we can use the logic and critical thinking when we need to, but in terms of this reality, in terms of this matrix, mind is the one that's controlled. Therefore, Sophia is the consciousness, is the wisdom of the womb, not of the head. And when we say me, I don't believe this, we don't show here, we show here. Right? It's interesting. So we kind of instinctively, we know that we need to get down.
We believe here, and we believe in our gut, heart in the gut, but we perceive it through our mind.
Exactly.
And some of us don't trust, you know, and that's where I'm getting at, is that, you know, I trust my what's the word I'm looking for? I trust my discernment. Whereas I don't think some people, they don't have a clue what their discernment is. They don't have a discernment level. They can be told one thing and the next day told them something else and say, oh, I don't think I ever believed that. Or they don't, you know what I mean? They cannot discern what's true and what's false, or in their heart and in their gut. And it leads to a lot of the light programming. I had this dream last week that and it was probably me asking the question. I'm not sure where the answer came from, but sometimes it's, you know, the thought that there's no original thought. It's just, you know, interchangeable consciousness. And I'm not sure that I necessarily believe that, but I'm open to whatever that might be. My point is, in this thought, it was that nature and everything in this physical realm was being streaming like a light into our into our minds. So we perceive it that way. And our memories are things that are also separately streamed, and are, you know, so there were multiple streams that were going on, like a movie theater. Like you have multiple light spectrums that we're watching or that we're feeling, and we're just sitting inside of this holographic light spectrum that is showing us, you know, nature, and they're showing us, you know, physical items, and then we're being streamed another thing. That's the storyline. That's our history or whatever it is in your life. And then we have another stream, and we're trying to discern between these three or four streams of mental, you know, programming of what is reality. And we're thinking it's the same thing, and we're all seeing the same thing. But in actuality, I don't think that we're all seeing the same frequencies. I think that, like you said, I think that some people have broken out of a frequency and they're tapped into something else. And that's what the discernment for me is that we're all living in a reality that's different, but we have some subjective and some objective reality that's being streamed. And it's hard for me to explain that. That's probably the best way that I could see it, is that it's different lights, streams of consciousness that are operating at the same time. And we're trying to navigate individually which ones we're tapping into.
Well, I think that, you know, the key from the teachings that I've received is that whatever it is that's perceived in the mind, we call it consciousness, right? But we always the consciousness is linked to the mind, right? We don't link consciousness to where would you place it? Well, somewhere in the head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anything to do with that, we're back to the fact that, okay, we can have different experiences, but it is still a projection of something that's being streamed upon us. So how do we leave that? How do we get out of that? And, you know, discernment is, where does discernment come from? And of course, I think that alchemically it goes a little bit deeper. So you see, the story of Inanna descent to Underworld is not just a good story for no reason. It is a coded alchemical parallel to the way the ancients and in the current times, because this is not just the ancients trying to you know, tell us a good story. This is a beautiful way of coding of how to escape this mechanism. And the way to escape this mechanism is not just to kind of be aware of it, because that's not enough. The way to escape it is by literally taking off the layers of programming. And I think that very often we perhaps believe that as long as we are conscious, as long as we are aware, that's enough. Well, that's not exactly enough, because we are so programmed, so deep. She goes through 7 gates, and those 7 gates, if you think about in Eastern Europe, Russia, they have the matryoshka. You know, the I actually have I could show you the dolls inside the dolls. In the most traditional version, it is 7 of them, one inside the other. Very, very linked to the fact that this
the Russian
programming, the Russian dolls, the one inside.
Is it always 7 Russian dolls inside of each other?
It's not always 7,
okay,
but
that would be really
alchemical traditions, I've seen ones with 10. But that tradition sort of originates from 7, where it was 7 layers. The 7 is quite a magical number that obviously patriarchy overtakes. So we have these 7 sisters in the Pleiades. We have the number 7 with the gates that Inanna goes through. But then we have 7 days of the week and 7 planets, right? The astrology. So patriarchy will always go after the archons, go after the feminine symbols, and they take over. Because if you flip the truth, then you know, this is how you can hide the lie and distort. So I don't think it's that simple as just having the ability to know, okay, we're programmed. That's great. That doesn't fix anything. I think there's a lot of people out there that started perhaps doing some work, and they've realized that awareness itself is not enough.
Yep. I completely agree. There's 2 more specific things that I want to bring up, because I think one of them is it's missing the key to what we're talking about here, and the missing link. There it is. Can you talk about what that is, and how you would phrase that subject?
Well, the missing link for me has always been, if you look at the most of the teachings, the truth searching community, there's a lot of focus on the mind, on the science. The science claims this. You know, we're trying to answer a lot of questions based on searching and research and using the mind and using the critical thinking. But who says that that's necessarily where the answers are, right? Where everything is based on the mind here in this space. And when you look into a lot of those things, whether you're reading ancient texts, whether you're dealing with any level of scrutiny of any of the topics that we've been discussing, how come we are not reaching, or very rarely do I hear any of those so-called academics or researchers talking about the feminine, talking about the fact that before patriarchy, we had a totally different sort of system that was prevalent in all the cultures, and that was, I don't want to call it matriarchy, but I would rather call it reverence of the feminine. This is why back the archaeological discoveries are showing Shilanagik, right? Those pictures of women, reverence to the so-called fertility. This is how it's been interpreted. Shilanagik in the Celtic folklore, but not only. We have the goddesses linked to fertility. We have the caves. We have the wells. So what was that about, right? So the missing link is that feminine. It is that feminine alchemy. It is that feminine aspect, which over millennia there's been this crusade to eradicate it in the shape of witch hunts, right? Women were burnt at the stake for having wisdom. Wisdom of what? Wisdom how to operate outside of the matrix, how to escape the matrix. Women such as Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, and other Marys, right? That were they were high initiates into mysteries, into school of Isis. They were all educated in Egypt. So you see, there is this line of teachings of the feminine, which echoes through the legends, through the tales, up until today, through the indigenous stories. A lot of those things already have been flipped, and patriarchy sort of put its hand on top of it. But if you almost know what you're looking for, if you know about the reverence of the feminine, if you know that the cathedrals by the Knights Templars, they were built physically, energetically to represent a woman, why the doorway is always in a certain shape, which is obviously relating to the feminine organs. Why was that so important? For what reason? So this is that kind of that feminine is what we have to bring back into the picture, because all the teachings, all this tradition is very patriarchal, right? There are male gods, there is a male history, there are heroes killing maidens and being heroes for that. What is the missing tradition? What are the stories that they were trying to cover up? And why is it so important now? Why is it important at the time when the apocalypse itself, as confirmed by Vatican, the signs are literally happening? So the signs from the apocalypse already. Okay, I see.
That's not a sign of the apocalypse, in case people were wondering.
None of that.
That's another sign. Maybe that's time to get up and move. I don't know. Probably.
Actually, it's good news, okay? Because everybody gets scared when I talk about the apocalypse, the end of times, and no. End of times as we know them now. So that should be good news. And the sign that I'm referring to is the woman clothed in the sun with the crown of 12 stars above her head, pregnant, and the moon at her feet will show up. And she already has showed up. She showed up in 2017 at the fall equinox. We're talking about the constellation Virgo and the Mars, Venus, and Mercury in the constellation of Leo coming towards Virgos, formed together with the constellation Leo, the crown. The sun was in around the head of Virgo, Jupiter further down, symbolizing the pregnancy, and the moon at her feet. So that is return of a woman who takes the moon under her feet, meaning women are leaving the times when the moon controlled us. The mind control, the major mind control comes from the moon. The major control of women comes from the moon in terms of the cycle, in terms of the alchemical abilities. So you see, energetically, there has been already events happening indicating that this is an unprecedented time, and this return of the feminine, that missing link, that you see, there is a reason why this wisdom has been hidden for such a long time, because the time is now for those things to return. they don't want us to know. They don't want women to know, to remember, and to perhaps reactivate reaccess this wisdom within them, because it's dangerous. This is the ultimate threat.
Yep, and the apocalypse, for people who don't know, that the actual meaning of the apocalypse is a final destruction of the world. So it could be a very positive sign, actually.
Yeah, which world, right?
Yes,
world?
that's exactly right. And if the moon's going to be at her feet, and the moon is, you know, a tool of the matrix, then
Exactly.
that's definitely a good thing. I appreciate that. So this leads perfectly well done into the last topic, and that is the moon and how it works. So that was really, really great. The dog walked by, and then the dog jumped over the moon, and now here we are.
Isn't that right? Yeah, the moon. So the moon being an artificial construct. Okay, we have ancient texts. We have ancient references which show that the moon was not there to begin with. Moon has been placed up there, and we have the, for example, the Sumerian creation myth that refers to it. The moon is probably the biggest local tool of control. The moon is the brain of the matrix. It is absolutely not a natural phenomena. It doesn't even meet the criteria to be the natural phenomena. It is like a computer that controls this matrix. It is that kind of system. This is why, for example, we never get to see one side of it. This is why so many things are so coincidental about its size, about its movement. It is, if you dig a little bit deeper, you will find out that moon has been one of its original purposes was to imitate Venus, or to take the attention away from Venus. The phases of the moon, which we now obviously take for granted that this is a natural phenomena that happens to a satellite, to a moon, right? No, the phases, this whole concept of phases, stolen from Venus. So Venus was the one that was connected, and has been and still is connected to the feminine principle. But as you know, the moon has kind of taken over. So now a lot of women, especially in the New Age circle, very much still follow the moon, even though moon is absolutely the tool of control and manipulation, the biggest brain behind the control of this matrix. It affects the grid of the earth. It affects the crystal structure in the earth. It affects women. It messes up our hormones. It affects our cycles. It steals our fertility abilities. It reduces them to childbearing abilities, while a woman energetically, physically has the ability to birth universes. But who knows, right? So the moon, part of the AI construct, it's a very advanced technology, and this part of the frequency sort of stream, or the way this mechanism works, is very much linked to the moon. So it is the moon that specifically projects a big chunk of those onto us.
I want to read something, because as you were saying that, I had the impulse to Google what is the purpose of the moon, thinking they would put that information in there. And because I do know the purpose of the moon, what we're told is that it's tides and waves. And that's interesting if we're operating off of the concept of frequency and vibration from this technology. So it says that the moon makes the Earth a livable planet by moderating our planet's wobble on its axis, leading to a stable climate. It also causes tides, creating a rhythm that has guided humans for thousands of years. That's very interesting how they put that.
That's what they want you to believe, right? I mean,
It's true.
It's
true. It's been guiding us for thousands of years. It's not guiding us correctly, but it's been guiding us, and it also causes waves. The terminology of causes waves is very interesting. There's one more thing I want to put. It says there are three main ways the moon is important to life on Earth: time, tides, and light.
Right.
So you could easily break those down into a conspiracy and have a whole video on that. How do you think?
And you see, interesting, isn't it interesting that the moon causes waves in the seas, right? In the sea and in the ocean. The oceans are linked to the pra-ocean. If you look the original creation stories, from whether that's the Kabbalah or even the Bible, there is always the mixing of the salt waters and the sweet waters, the ocean, the primordial ocean, right? So this is a reference to the womb, to the original womb of creation. That's the ocean. And the sea, from French, we have the mar, right? La mar, and mar, Mary. So this is the link to the water and to the womb. But how can you explain to me, if gravity works and if the moon has the ability to pull the waves, pull the water in such massive bodies of water like oceans and the seas, can you explain to me why is it not pulling the water out of lakes? And
no one can explain how gravity works or replicate it. It's not possible based on any model.
It only works when it's convenient, right?
Well, what else is convenient is what you just said, was that the moon, it pulls together the salt and the fresh water. So fresh could be the base, and the salt, it's mixing two worlds, basically, two waters or two waves. And that's very symbolic as well. If what we're talking about today has been mixing of a frequency, mind control, and a base reality, which we're perceiving both through different wave spectrums or light spectrums.
Right.
So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and even if you dig into it a little bit more from a scientific standpoint, it hijacked some of the sun energy, and I'm not talking about the light. I'm not talking about the fact that it takes sort of the light from the sun, therefore it shines. No, it is the scientists, some of them that even are allowed to speak, they do confirm that the moon causes some kind of phenomena, that the sun's energy is hijacked to an extent. It is also
it could be redirected. It could be redirected energy. That could be exactly how it's powered.
Right. Yes, definitely. But even alchemically, in terms of the sort of original stories, you see the sun. The sun has a very, very important function. The sun is a portal in the stories of pretty much all cultures, but the original ones, before it's been twisted to be a masculine influence. The sun is feminine. It's a portal. So the moon is masculine. Originally in the teachings, the moon was masculine, and it still is in a lot of languages. Moon is a masculine form, and in a lot of stories, it remains to be in its masculine form. So the moon is now sort of stealing parts of the energy from the sun. So we have to kind of look into what is the sun, what's the sun's role, what was it originally designed for, and why, for example, Bill Gates is so obsessed with covering the sun, right? Why are they so worried about the sun?
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching the chemtrails and the planes here in Georgia, and the cloud cover and the clouds in general. It's completely a mystery what the heck's going on. I posted a video of me driving north, and there was a cloud cover that was literally like dense clouds and absolutely nothing above it, and it was east to west as far as I could see, and I was dumbfounded that was sitting in the sky. Like, how is this natural? This is not natural.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I mean, of course, the chemtrails, they're doing everything they can to poison us, to make the environment toxic. Of course, this is a part of the grander plan. At the webinar that I mentioned before, I tried to explain, because we can only cover so much here, right? At the webinar, I had a chance to go much deeper into a lot of those things. So I exactly explained the context, because obviously what started with the apocalyptic sign, with the great sign in the sky, that kind of started a sequence of events. Venus played a major part. Pleiades played a major part. So there's been quite a lot of cosmic phenomena that happened that kind of is here to in a way bring in certain messages of new energies and certain phenomena which as above so below happens in the underworld as well. So things are reflected in the underworld. The only missing link is us in this world, is the knowledge of it, and is the ability to perform our part of the job. So you see that the sun also takes part in this grand context. The sun being a portal, there are certain energies that need to get to us. So the sun is being used in that context, and these are not some kind of esoteric weird stories. These are the this is the synthesis of prophecies and the apocalypse and the interpretation, the alchemical interpretation of these events. So we are actually in a window which has been going on since 2017 of very, very deep alchemical changes, a very, very meaningful context where women are necessary to kind of really step into the role that they have been that's been sort of left for them. This is why you see we have the gender nonsense going on right now. We have 50 genders, and we have the Pride Month, and we have this and that. All that is to literally drive away the attention and to to get the people to even start questioning everything, including the very being of us. So they are extremely worried. They were always aware of this cosmic context that I'm describing, because they knew about it. They knew about the apocalypse. They obviously they know much more than we do. But my point is that those events have now started happening. That they've been happening for years, and we do see there is no coincidence why the last 3 years happened the last 3 years and not 15 years ago and not in the next 10 years. They are trying to counteract to something that they cannot stop. Why the vaccines? Because they know that there's an influx of a certain energy, which is measured even scientifically. Influx from the cosmic, so from the center of the galaxy, plus influx from the Earth, so-called the Schumann resonance, right? They don't know how to measure things, but that's what's starting to happen. And they cannot stop it. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to prevent us from being able to benefit from it, such as mess up again with our DNA, such as mess up again with our health. So here come the chemtrails, right? So they're kind of trying to counter from every direction, but ultimately they cannot stop the phenomena itself. So if we can get enough people, enough women specifically for this purpose, to kind of bring back, reactivate that alchemy, then we have unprecedented chance to really end this world the way it has been.
Well, you're going to need a bigger boat for your cruise. You need to build an ark. I think that's what you need to do. And if you need to get some men to help you do it, that's fine too. What was I going to say? The last question that I was going to put out for you, I think I forgot it. Man, I'm sorry. It was going to be a lead-in question, but anyway, we've been going for like an hour and a half on this one and another 35 minutes on the other one. But thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you want to plug or you want to add? I don't know who's there. There probably are only people who follow you religiously that are still watching. But I think it was a great talk. I get a lot of questions and answers out of it. And actually, I'm not surprised, but I actually find that we are seeing more in agreement the more that we speak. I felt like the first time it was like, I was trying to see things a certain way and you were seeing things a certain way. And I think this talk was very agreeable, and I don't want to only be agreeable. So it's not only a good thing necessarily, but I think that we're both seeing the world in glasses or in a spectrum that is very empowering for both of us. And I thank you for that, because the message is things we can control in this world are best viewed through lenses of empowerment and using our sovereignty to break free. So for that, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, and it is definitely the time to return to that empowerment and bring back that wisdom, those messages. Do not give in to fear. There's, you know, the more ridiculousness and craziness that goes on is obviously indicative that the other side is getting more and more desperate. But you know, they're not going to announce on mainstream media that you know,
Right.
we are really coming back, right? They're not gonna say that. So just please keep doing what we're doing, and exciting times. Yeah, if we can correct the mastery one more time, then we are, I think, good to go.
I remember the question before we say goodbye, and I appreciate it again. Let me see if you can do this, because I can't do a one-word answer. The Northern Lights, caused by inner Earth. I don't need a one-word answer. I'm just kidding. Inner Earth causation, or is it something breaking in the matrix that is showing itself like a glitch?
So the Northern Lights, I can tell you here in terms of the kind of again the local beliefs or how this phenomena is being perceived. These are the voices. These are the energy that comes from the.
What does your heart tell you?
Tells
What
me
is
the
your-
same. I
tells you the
stand
same
for
thing.
the alchemy. I'm not just a messenger. I stand for it. I fully stand for it. I have experienced it. I know it works. I know what it's done to my life. I absolutely speak the voice of it. I just do not want to ascribe that to myself. I am just one of many who returns to the original design that we have been given. It is the beautiful, the original energy. It is the voice coming from the Underworld, if you like. Underworld is a little bit misunderstood what goes on in there, and of course this is coming. This is happening mostly in the north, which is where this, whether it's the top or whether it's the center, right? But linked to the axis mundi, linked to the well, the tree of life, right? So very, very special place here where we are. It is linked to that energy from the underworld finding its way up. Very alchemical. So very often when things are happening alchemically, the northern lights show up as a result of that, or they come up to play part in certain phenomena.
Awesome. Good. Well explained. Ola,
so much more esoteric than
I'm gonna have you back on when I can get some more questions. You answer almost all of them. When is your cruise return? Or when do you think you'll be back?
This event is happening between the 8th and the 15th, and then I am pretty much, I would say, out of action until late June, early July, and then I have a window in July for about 2 weeks.
Is it a portal? Is it a portal or a window?
It's yeah, who knows what it's gonna be, because my dad is coming. My dad is coming, so I don't even know what it's gonna be. My dad is
more masculine energy. That's what it is.
Pardon?
The universe is trying to send you some masculine energy. You're too powerful. The matrix is trying to mess you up.
Clearly there must be a balance, right? Yeah. I have a lot of masculine energy at home. I have 2 Bengal cats. So yeah. There's 2 tigers. So there is, there is good mix. But yeah, if you want to pick up at the end of this month, so that's June, or if not, then end of July.
Let's do it. We'll peg you for July just to make sure you're clear. I know things are going to pop up for you, and that's great. I don't want to get in your way of that.
No problem at all.
Thank you again. I enjoyed the conversation very much, and I think people are going to love it again. So Ola Wolny from southmasteryquest.com. Again, have a great day. Be safe on your cruise, and hopefully you have a lot of stories to share with us. I'm sure people will definitely want to know.
So, thank you so much for having me, and lovely to be here again. All the best, everybody.
All right, great. Thank you so much.